What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Blue Turnip's Bad Podcast about good music. My name is Kyle,
What's up? My name's Brian.
and we are here to tell you about the greatest tunes of all time. And that's our main message, and it's what we do perfectly every single time we do this.
Yeah, that's right.
And if anybody tries to argue with us, I'm pretty sure that we can have the research to show that they're wrong.
Yeah, dude, we do plenty of research.
Oh, yeah.
We're very open to anything.
Send it our way and we will write you a long email. But welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. If this is your first time joining us, Brian and I are 2/3 of the rock band Blue Turnip, and we started this podcast last year to count down our top 5 albums from the year 2000 up to the present day. And we'd hoped to be done by the end of 2021. Obviously, that didn't happen. Here we are in 2022, still recording these bad boys, but it doesn't make it any less awesome. Today, we are talking about the year 2014, and Brian and I have some awesome music to remind you guys about that came out in that year 2014. It's gonna be a good time.
Yeah, I was just thinking our first episode was probably about a year ago this time.
Yeah,
because it was right after my son Benny was born. So yeah, it's been a while. It's been a wild ride. we're getting close to the modern times now. It's crazy.
It's very true.
Started all the way back in 2000.
Yeah, noticeable shift in my music, even in the past couple of years, as far as like more modern of a sound for sure.
Same here, no doubt.
Well, awesome. Well, before we get into the countdown, we always like to start off with a little segment. And last time we did a concert review, and we enjoyed that so much that we decided we would do concert review again this time. This is not for a show that Brian and I have been to together, but each of us have been to a show very recently, and we just wanted to talk about it because we had a great time, and we want to let you guys know that there's this awesome music out there. So for the very first time, I went to Cat's Cradle in Chapel Hill, which was a very fun little venue. Free parking. What? It's crazy.
Wow, that is crazy.
It was amazing. So Cat's Cradle, number 1, free parking. You can go there if you want. And I saw the Dave Bromberg Quintet, who I'm sort of like waffly about, but the opening act was what I was really, really excited about. It was Rob Ickes and Trey Hensley. They are this like powerhouse bluegrass country duo that are just like ridiculously talented virtuoso musicians. I think Rob Ickes, they said, is like the most decorated bluegrass dobro guitarist of all time. I think he's won Dobro Guitarist of the Year 15 times.
Dude.
And Trey Hensley, he's like an acoustic shredder. He does that flat pick stuff, but like outrageously fast. And it's just the two of them, and they got a super full sound. They both have really nice voices, and they harmonize with each other. And that's the second time I've gotten to see them, and both times they like blew the roof off the place. So it was totally worth going out there and seeing those guys again. And then Dave Bromberg Quintet was fine. They're okay. They played for a long time, and both my friend and I that went were like, we could have like cut that set list down by like 20-30 minutes and had like a really great time.
Yeah.
But he's just a little past his prime. You know, he's an older dude now, and his band has a couple of older dudes in it. But the big number one positive takeaway from their set is he had this violinist. I have no idea who the dude was. I didn't look it up afterwards or anything, but the guy was awesome. And he didn't get as many solos as he should have, which was a shame. But when he did solo, it was like, wow, this guy is very obviously like head and shoulders the most talented person in this band. But yeah, it was totally worth it. First time at Cat's Cradle, definitely go back. And Rob Ickes and Trey Hensley, can't recommend those guys enough. They're awesome. So yeah, man.
Cool. Yeah, I went to Cat's Cradle several years ago. It's really nice. Small. So
yeah,
you get up close and personal, which is
cool.
I'm
actually going back there tonight, man. I'm super stoked.
Yeah,
seeing Leprous tonight, which we haven't talked about in the podcast yet, but we will in a few years. And then once we start talking about them, I'm not going to stop because they're the best. But yeah,
I don't know if we've talked about you moving to Raleigh. maybe we have, but Kyle, you live like real close to concert venues now, which like neither of us have ever been close
It's really
to.
true. I know.
So that's kind of sweet.
That was like one of the first things I did when COVID numbers started going down is I like cracked my knuckles and opened up like all of my devices to the different concert venue sites and was writing down the shows that I wanted to go to and stuff. And so there's some good stuff coming through the next few months. Most of the summer schedules are still up in the air. Not everyone's scheduled through the summer yet, so who knows who'll come through then. But yeah, there's some exciting stuff. There's so much around here. It's really cool.
Dude, and live music is back full force, man. Everybody's out there playing. I've got a list of my like ticket master. Like this year, I'm going to see Dave Matthews Band, Paul McCartney on back-to-back days, which is crazy. Ooh. Then I'm seeing Coldplay, the Black Keys, and 21 Pilots.
Those are some powerhouse groups too. Those are like big time, like
big names.
Woke up early to do the Ticketmaster pre-sales and get the shows.
Yeah. Dude, pro tip though, I was actually going to talk about this. I'll be reviewing Billie Eilish. Me and my wife saw her in concert about a month ago now, but we had crappy nosebleeds. We did like the pre-sale thing where you got to get like verified for the pre-sale, get on like an hour early, and it sucks. And it sold out like instantly. So we got like super high nosebleeds. The day of the show, I was like, because it was sold out like really fast. I was like, man, I'm just going to get on and see if like by chance something's available. People that like can't go or sell their tickets or whatever, dude, you can get phenomenal seats the day of the concert for like big name bands.
Wow.
So we upgraded from the nosebleeds to like stage level to where we could like see her like very well. Yeah. So pro tip.
That's awesome.
Don't feel bad if you get stuck in the nosebleeds because there's hope for an upgrade. Yeah, so we upgraded. But I'll jump into my concert review now. It's a good segue there. Like I said, it was a sold out show, February 6th at the Spectrum Center in Charlotte. Very big venue there. And we were pumped we got that last minute seat upgrade because concerts like that, it's hard to hear when you're super far away, especially in big venues like that. So that was pretty tight. And we saw her about 2 years ago to the date, actually, when her first album came out. So we got to see her touring her new album, Happier Than Ever, which was cool. The intro was so sick, dude. Like Hype Nation.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. The band came out. Is that My Light Flickering?
I think it is.
Oh yeah, dude. We're having some pretty big wins here. So
oh man.
Hopefully I don't lose power. Anyways. Yeah, the intro is sick. The band came out and played the instrumental version of Oxytocin, which is like a banger song. But the strobe lights were going boom, and Billie Eilish was like standing way up high, and she would like flash, and she was there. And then boom, she like disappeared. Everybody's like, whoa. And she literally shot up through the floor, like in the air, and like landed on the ground, and they went straight into their first song.
Whoa.
It was so sick, dude. The crowd went freaking nuts. And like everybody there is like a super fan, which is really cool. So everybody's like majorly into it and like singing all the words to all the songs. And this time the crowd was much older, which was nice. Because last time it was like us and like a bunch of teenagers, but like everybody there was like college age, like middle age in our section. So that was nice. She matured a little bit over the years. But surprisingly, like very minimal production for such a big name act, other than like a video screen and some lasers. And that was about it, which was kind of cool. Because it made you really focus on the band and stuff.
Yeah.
It was about a 2-hour set list, which kind of is unheard of for a pop artist. So that was kind of awesome. I feel like you get your money's worth because obviously it was very expensive. But they played tons of throwback songs. They played almost the entire new album, Happier Than Ever. I think there's 1 or 2 songs they didn't play. But Happier Than Ever, in my opinion, is one of the most important albums to come out like in my lifetime. So I was pretty stoked about it.
Wow.
And I'll talk about that album when we get to 2021 spoilies, but whatever. But like, if anybody's interested in seeing the album live, there's a cool concert that they did on Disney Plus where they played the whole album through with the Los Angeles Philharmonic, and that was pretty cool. Wow. But that gives you a good taste of what it was like. The big highlight though was the closing track, which is the title track, Happier Than Ever. I thought it was the best song of the year for sure. But when that big chorus hit, dude, I got chills like hardcore. And there was a massive confetti blaster from the ceiling, like so much confetti you couldn't even see. My wife lost like complete control of her body. Like, dude, we went freaking nuts. Like, everybody was jumping up and down. It was so fun. It was just like an insane way to end the show. And I wanted to point out too, I thought this would be something fun to talk about. There was no encore, which I honestly kind of like. I thought it would be a fun segment to do sometime to talk about whether encores are a dying art. Because I see less and less of it at live shows now. Like, Muse didn't have an encore when we saw them. 21 Pilots didn't have an encore when we saw them. And I enjoy that for many reasons, but I'd like to talk about that further sometime. I don't want to get off track too bad, but yeah, Billie Eilish, dude, anytime she's on tour, I would highly recommend seeing her live show. Super high energy, super fun crowd. Yeah, I'll see her anytime she's in town for sure.
Nice. Yeah, well, definitely we should do the encore thing as the segment for our next episode.
Yeah, I thought that'd be interesting.
I think I'll have to like really rack my brain, but I can only remember 2 concerts that I've ever been to that didn't have one, and both of them were at a small music festival where the same band was headlining 2 nights in a row, and it was the first night they didn't play one. They were just like, "Hey, we'll be back tomorrow. Like, you guys have a great night." But yeah, I think every other show I've ever been to had, even Dave Brownberg. You know, he's probably like, he's been cranking since 1972. So, you know, he's up there, and he came back out and played one more. And so, yeah.
Yeah. I don't want to talk about it too much because I have some like points that I'd like to make about it, but it seems like it's shifting towards people aren't doing it as much anymore. At least like big bands, but yeah, it's very, very interesting.
Interesting indeed. Well, nice. There you go. Well, I'm sure next time we might have to make some space to talk about the shows that we go to again, because I know I'm going to one tonight, and I'm sure you've got one coming up soon as well.
Yeah. Oh yeah. In May. Yeah. So pretty soon.
Well, excellent. All right, shifting into 2014. We always start off, before we get into the countdown, with some honorable mentions. And we always like to mention that I've got some honorable mentions, and the only reason that Brian doesn't is because he deleted them. He killed them.
Sorry.
But I've got just a short list. I've got 4 of them here. Let's see. So actually some high drama. I told you right before we started recording this. For the first time this is the 15th one of these that we've done. For the first time, like right before we got on this call, I swapped out my number 5 with one of my honorable mentions. So apologies to this band. If you ever listen to this podcast, I'm really sorry, I guess. But the Family Crest, Beneath the Brine, it's their second album. It's a really great album. It's got a super full sound. The guy does an awesome job of curating this huge group of musicians that are mostly West Coast based, and lots of like choir type background vocals and strings and horns, but all kind of based around sort of like a I guess like at its total core, you'd call it like folk rock or acoustic rock or something like that, but just like super hyper produced of that genre. But it's a really great album. It's got some really great songs on it. My heart was telling me to shift in another direction today. So got bumped to an honorable mention. We got, this is a super short album, but I love this one. Tom Booth, Time Stands Still. I think it's an 8-track album. So it's like, kind of like borderline EP. I think it's only like half an hour long. And yeah, Tom Booth is just a Catholic Christian artist that I really, really like. And I haven't talked about him in a good while. But this is one that's got some really special songs on it, and cool guy. Transatlantic, they've been on my countdown a couple times already. Here they are in the honorable mentions with their I believe 4th studio album, Kaleidoscope. This is a good album. It's really good. It's got especially tracks 2 and 3. Track 3, Black as the Sky, is probably my favorite Transatlantic song. Really, really cool one. And Shine was one of the singles they put out, very like Pink Floyd-y, especially the guitar solos, like big time David Gilmour vibes. So really cool.
Nice.
And then this one, gosh, I'll tell you, this was dang close to being on my countdown because it's really, really good. But I decided to boot it because I didn't put a comedy album on this year, but it's Weird Al Yankovic, possibly his very last studio album ever, because he might not do another one, is Mandatory Fun from 2014. I was in college when this album came out, and he did a promotion for it where he put out, I think it was eight music videos in 8 days, I'm pretty sure is what he did. And like every single one that he put out was so funny and so good. And I actually bought the CD a couple weeks ago in preparation for doing this podcast because I wanted to have it and listen to it. I ended up listening to it 3 times in a row because I was enjoying it so much. And I mentioned it a tiny bit in our last podcast that the very last song on the album, Jackson Park Express, that's like 11 minutes long or something like that. And it goes through all these time changes and stuff. And the whole like last minute of the song is in 7. And it's just really, really funny that like he went through like all this effort and stuff. And it's this really goofy song about like this woman that he sees on the bus, and he's just like over analyzing every single thing that she does. And but yeah, Weird Al, man, top notch.
Dude, how can you not love Weird Al? Seriously. He just seems like such a cool guy too. Like he seems so freaking nice, dude. He's actually going on tour this year too. And I think he's playing all original songs. I don't think he's doing any covers. So
yeah, all the deep tracks. Be sweet.
Yeah. We saw him live back in the day, and it was super fun. He did all the costume changes, and like in between he would have his interview videos and stuff. It was pretty fun.
Yeah, we saw him too. God, it must have been like pretty soon after he came out with this album when we saw him. But we've thought about going on this tour because he's coming to Wilmington, and we were like, we can go back to Wilmington and see some friends. And but yeah, he also just finished filming a movie that's going to be coming out. I think he's doing like a fake biography pic.
Yeah, I saw that.
It seems like it's going to be really funny.
Yeah.
So it'll be cool.
He's the man.
Truly.
Nice, dude.
Well, I'll turn over to you. Why don't you get it started, my man? Little top 5 from 2014.
Yeah, dude. And before I start, I was going to say that you're number 5. Like for these, when the bands do listen to our podcast, they're going to know that you were on the fence about it. So you really got to sell it. Because it's like a big demotion to go to honorable mention.
That's true. That is true.
Yeah, maybe next time we shouldn't say that we switched them. No, I'm just kidding. All right. Number 5 from 2014. I've got Lullaby and the Ceaseless Roar by Robert Plant with his band, the Sensational Space Shifters. I was able to see them live at Bonnaroo, which is why I ended up buying their album. Incredibly unique sound. It's a pretty cool like cultural experience, I guess you could say. Lots of tribal African instruments layered with your standard like rock electric guitars, and of course the distinct voice of the great Robert Plant. And Plant, he's experimented with lots of genres the last few years, post Led Zeppelin, of course. His voice surprisingly suits different genres so well. I've loved his stuff that he's done with Alison Krauss. They just came out with a new album last year that was really cool. but the Sensational Space Shifters, I think that's his best solo work. I guess he works with a band, but his name's on the cover. He doesn't actually give them credit, but that's the name of the band. But they're awesome, dude. A musical journey for sure. Like definitely captures the art form that an album is, and I know we've talked about that a lot and how important that is. It very much feels like one piece or like a concept, you could say. But yeah, dude, it's super cool sounding stuff, like that rock intertwined with that like African kind of stuff is pretty far out. So I dig it.
Yeah, I have to admit, I've never heard this one. I need to listen to it. I listened to the few songs on the podcast or on the playlist, which, by the way, if you're interested in the music that we talk about, there is a link in the description to this video to a Spotify playlist with selections from all the albums. Brian's put 3 wonderful songs from this album on there. And it's really cool. I was like, I don't know if it was just because like Led Zeppelin was so much in my head, or if it was just like the time in my life. But the album that he did with Alison Krauss, I like wasn't crazy about.
Yeah.
And that like kind of made me stop keeping track of him. So this one, I need to give it an honest shot and reevaluate.
It rocks, dude. Especially the song Turn It Up that I put on the playlist. That's a freaking jam. And seeing them live was really cool because they covered a bunch of Zeppelin songs, but with this band. So they put like a really cool spin on the old Zeppelin songs. But yeah, they're really cool and very talented for sure.
Very nice. Very nice.
Yeah.
Way to kick it off, my man. Way to kick it off.
Yeah, kicking it off strong.
All right. So the last minute promotion to my number 5 is the North Carolina band Larkin Poe. And their debut, their first full album, Kin, K-I-N, Kin, as in family. Larkin Poe is essentially 2 sisters. And before this album, they really had like a very like acoustic sort of folk rock sound. And there still are songs like that on this album, but they brought in like a big blues element. And there's like a little bit of hip hop element on a couple of the songs, especially the ones that a couple of the ones I put on the playlist, Dandelion and Elephant. But they're just they got great voices, especially the singer, the sister who sings lead is excellent. Features slide guitar on most of the songs, which I'm a big sucker for slide guitar. Yeah, and I think like what ended up making me last minute push this up from honorable mentions into the countdown was, as I was going through my honorable mentions, like I get so happy when I listen to this album. And I think it was very much like an emotional, like I like couldn't leave it out because just like the songs just make me smile and just puts me in a good mood. And yeah. And plus North Carolina pushing the local local groups out there. So yeah.
Yeah, I like them a lot. I think they are pretty popular on YouTube. Like they're pretty well known for doing live stuff on their YouTube channel. I might have them mixed up with somebody else, but I definitely remember seeing a lot of their YouTube videos when they were first coming up.
Nice.
But yeah, they're really cool. I didn't know they're from North Carolina.
Well, I actually heard of them because when you were in college and you were DJing at WASU, the song, one of the songs that's on the playlist, Don't, was like kind of in the rotation. That you guys would play, and I really liked that song, and I ended up looking up the group and buying the album, and so yeah, so thanks to you, Brian, for playing that song for me and
no problem
making it happen.
I obviously was not well researched at that time because I had no idea they were from North Carolina. Whatever. All right. Let's go to number 4 here from 2014. I've got The Cautionary Tales of Mark Oliver Everett by Eels. Eels goes acoustic on this one. This album super stripped down. It's coming directly off of the album I talked about last episode from 2013, Wonderful Glorious, which was some pretty heavy riff rock. So a very cool contrast there. From album to album, which I always appreciate when bands mix it up, and they're well known for doing that. This one is a little tough for me because it has some of my all-time favorite Eels tracks and some of my all-time least favorite Eels tracks. But the good far outweighs the bad. Obviously, that's why it's on my list. But yeah, I think it has some of E's more honest lyrics, very much about his personal life experience, which is pretty obvious from the album title, The Cautionary Tales of Mark Oliver Everett. But I always love his lyrics, and he has such an interesting life. Like I've recommended this before, but definitely check out his autobiography sometime, just because he has such a crazy, cool life. But pair that with like some awesome melodies, a heck of a lot of catchy choruses. You got yourself a winner, a 4th place winner. Yeah, but I love it. It's super chill, very, very much acoustic guitar driven. Yeah, it's a good one. No doubt.
Nice. I'm like continually impressed by his prolificness. I don't know if that's a word. Just like how much music he has out there. Like every time we do one of these, I'm always like, man, he's got another one. Like another one on Brian's list, another one on Brian's list. Like it's crazy.
Yeah, sometimes 2 in 1 year. Yeah, but we were talking about before we got on here, I was very devastated because they're my all-time favorite band. They postponed their tour for a full year. I was supposed to see them in May, and they pushed it back to next June. It's at Cat's Cradle, so
all right.
yeah.
That's a bummer, man. I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, I could soak in their new album for a year longer.
There you go.
Yeah, it'll be all right.
Yeah.
I'll make it.
Yeah.
I'll just like freeze myself and have somebody wake me up in a year.
Oh gosh, that'd be crazy. That's dedication right there.
Like, I can't wait any longer. It's so tough because you already wait for a year. Like I got the tickets like a year in advance, and they're like, "Wait 1 more year, sucker."
Jeez.
That's right. It's better than a cancellation. So
that's true. Yeah. Sweet. Let's see. My number 4. We've got the album is called Alive. By Hiromi, the Hiromi Trio Project. Hiromi has been on my countdown once before. I think it was 2011. Let me check real quick. It's going to bother me if I don't check that and verify. Indeed, 2011 with her album Voice. She was at number 3 that year. So here she is again. Alive. This is actually the very first album that I heard by her. My father-in-law played this when we were over at their house for dinner one day, and I couldn't pay attention to the conversation that we were having at all because I was like, this is so cool. Like this is so cool. It's basically just a powerhouse trio, piano, bass, drums. Hiromi, the pianist, and the drummer Simon Phillips are especially like unbelievably talented. I guess she shows up in jazz circles. She shows up in progressive rock circles because she messes around about with different time changes and sort of genre bending and just really, really cool music. Listened to this album on Thursday, did a lot of driving on Thursday and listened to the whole thing in the car, and just a blast. Super, super cool music.
Yeah. Do you have the CD when you say you drive around in your car, or do you just listen to it on like Spotify? Or
I do have the CD, but I listen to it on my iPod Classic. Yeah.
See, I was gonna make a point that like I do the same thing because I'm working 45 minutes away like every day for like the next 3 months or something, but it's like perfect to listen to like an album there and an album back. That just made me think of that, how old school we are.
It's true.
Yeah. I'm like 45 minutes. I'm like, that's like perfect album time. Anyways, yeah, just thought I'd ask you about that. But I know you have a lot of CDs.
I do. They're in the background right over there. I don't know if they're in the camera or not. If I tilt, there we go. Now I can see the CDs over there.
Nice stack.
Yeah, I've got the single, the one that's just like single CDs stacked on top of each other. That's my Tower of Prague. It's all progressive music.
Oh, dude.
And then the other one is all my other stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's good times.
I can't display mine. I'm in my guest bedroom, but I've started collecting records recently, and I love having them just to like look at them.
Mm.
They're so cool. I want to get this thing that you can display like 12 of them on your wall, like
Ooh,
your favorite album covers. But
nice.
yeah, we're a little off track, but stay physical. It's the coolest.
I got my very first vinyl. It's actually, speaking of displaying it,
Yeah.
I got a little display little display thing for it to show it off up there. It's I think it was my number 2 album from 2005, Marvin's Marvelous Mechanical Museum. They did a re-release to an indie record label, and the vinyl came with the poster and some extra stuff. And I was like, I don't have a record player, but it was also like not expensive. It was only like $30, which I know vinyl a lot of times nowadays can be like in the 70, 80 range sometimes. So I had to pull the trigger on that one.
Like I said, though, it's just cool to display stuff like that. It just looks cool.
Oh yeah.
I got my first defective one a couple weeks ago. I got Is This It by The Strokes, and it's got a big hump in the middle. I've been flattening it out for weeks. Like, it's gotten a little better. Yeah.
We 2 times have tried to buy a record as a present for my father-in-law, and both times, one time was from his son-in-law and one time was from my wife and I. A totally wrong album has gotten shipped to him.
That's so weird.
The first time it was just like a totally random, like none of us had ever heard of him before. It was like a rock organist from the 70s. It was like a live concert that he did. And the second time we tried to order him a John Coltrane jazz album, and a Wu-Tang Clan album came instead.
That's awesome.
And we just wrapped it up and let him open it on Christmas. We were like, whatever. We're like,
that's hilarious. And that's so weird.
Both times the company was just like, sorry, and they just sent us our money back and didn't even like send us the right album or anything. Yeah, it was just like, okay. But
yeah, that's a good time to make a point that if you have a local record store, definitely support them for that reason, and just because it's good for the local economy. But I've bought whatever a few records on Amazon, and they always come. Everyone I've gotten has been like the cover has been like bent or ripples in or something. Yeah. So I stopped doing that.
There you go.
Yeah. All right. Back to the countdown.
Back to the countdown.
Back to the countdown. A little bonus segment for you. Yeah. All right. My number 3 from 2014 is They Want My Soul by Spoon. I talked about this last time, but I kind of lost touch with Spoon after like 2010 or so. I can't remember when the last album I had on the list was. So I'd actually never heard this album until last year, thanks to research for our podcast. And it turns out it's like the best Spoon album.
Wow.
Like by far. Like, I freaking love it, dude. It kind of takes their signature sound and like, I guess you could say elevates it, like much cleaner production, just a more mature sound overall, I think. Super quick, tight album, so it never misses the mark. Real breezy to listen to. But to talk about the production a little bit more, there's a lot of cool electronic elements incorporated, like more modern stuff, I guess you could say, that you typically aren't used to hearing with Spoon. But with that sound that they have and with those electronic elements, you get a nice, refreshing kind of sound. One of my favorites is the song Knock Knock. It uses a whistle as the main riff, like somebody whistling, not like a whistle that you blow into. But it sounds sick, dude. I don't know what they do to it, like what effects they put on it, but it sounds like an instrument. It's not like Bob Dylan whistling or something like that. Like, it sounds super cool. Yeah, a lot of really interesting stuff like that. And the song "Do You," was a big single for them. It's just like one of the best Spoon songs ever. I
Mm.
do remember hearing that one on the radio all the time. Just so cool, like phenomenal production. Really, really good album.
Sweet.
Yes.
Spoon again, baby.
Spoon's back, baby.
Let's see. My number 3, another debut. I've got another couple debut albums this year. This is Half the City by St. Paul and the Broken Bones. St. Paul and the Broken Bones are like a I don't know, 60s, 70s era Motown throwback band, sort of, but it's like mostly just a bunch of white dudes, which is pretty funny. Yeah, they're a blast, man. This debut album especially is like super, super fun. And it's really strong from start to finish. I know you and I talk about that sometimes, like that albums tend to be front loaded because, you know, especially the more modern albums where you might only get listeners to hear the first 2 to 5 tracks or whatever. But this one, I actually, for the playlist, ended up picking tracks 9, 10, and 11 just like in a row. I was like, man, all 3 of these songs are great. Just threw them all on there. So yeah, very strong from top to bottom. Great vocals. The dude can sing like nobody's business. We've tried to go see them twice, and both times the concert sold out so fast that we missed out on it. But they come to Wilmington a bunch of this outdoor venue that they had out there, and that was where we tried to see him. But we actually were relieved the second time because one of my friends went, and he said the singer was so sick that he couldn't even go out on stage. So they just played instrumentally for like 45 minutes. And I was like, that's cool, but like the singer is such a huge part of this band. Their draw. And but yeah, super fun if you're looking for that like Motown style with the horns and the real funky electric guitar tone, and awesome soulful vocals. Half the City by St. Paul and the Broken Bones. It's an album for you.
Yeah, they're awesome. I remember the first time I heard them was on a local radio station. Support local radio. Yeah, and they played. I don't remember like the big song from that one. I remember the riff. But
let's see.
So, yeah, that one wrote me in pretty fast.
Call me. Yeah, because he had that at the beginning.
Yeah, so good, dude. I don't know if you've heard any of their recent stuff, but it doesn't work for me. It's kind of disco-y.
It's not like, it's not bad. They're one of those groups where like, and we all have it. I think everybody who's plugged into music has stuff like this where you hear that first album and you're like, oh my gosh. And then you hear the second one and you're like, it's kind of the same, but just like not quite as
right.
That's not pulling me in. Like that's what they are for me. Like I would never say that their new stuff is bad. It's just like it doesn't have that like the charm of hearing this first album of like, oh wow, like I haven't heard this kind of music in a while. Like it's really fresh and cool, and
yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Like lost its sheen a little bit, I guess, as the years went on. But this album is still like I go back to this one at least once a year. It's a really fun one to listen to.
So, yeah, it's really good.
Yeah.
Nice pick, man. All right, number 2. I got Ghost Stories by Coldplay. This one's coming off a very poppy stadium banger, Milo Xyleto, Ghost Stories. So it welcomes a super stripped down, like mellow tunes featuring a lot of synthesizers, some sub bass, super clean guitars, no real drums. It's all electric or programmed drums, which was very different for them. And Ghost Stories, of course, is known as Chris Martin's breakup album, is what a lot of people call it. It follows his split with Gwyneth Paltrow. It's very sad. It's kind of heartbreaking to listen to. Definitely tough lyrically, kind of sad musically as well. But it really helps you kind of like connect with the artist or like connect with Chris Martin as a person, kind of get to go through what he's feeling. And it's tough to put yourself on the line like that for the whole world to hear. So I respect that. But for me, like yes, it's super depressing, but it's the glimpses of hope in the album that keeps it from getting mundane. I think A Sky Full of Stars is so masterfully placed in the tracking order. It's just like a great emotional release from all of like the sad stuff that comes before it. It gives you hope for the future, kind of. And the last lyrics of Magic are just like gut wrenching, but in such a good way. Like I said, it gives you those little glimmers of hope, even when life is tough. So I connected with this album lyrically pretty heavily, which I hadn't in the past with a lot of Coldplay stuff. But as a concept album, I think it really ropes the listeners in. You feel like you're a part of this story, part of Chris Martin, like what he's going through. But yeah, it's super different musically, which was nice. It's almost like their older sounding stuff, like back to the Parachutes days, but very much more like a modern take on it. Keeping up with the times, I guess you could say. So yeah, I guess now that I think about it, I might call it like a modern day Parachutes. Yeah, I love it, dude. I listen to it all the time. It's only 9 songs, so it's pretty quick. And that's probably intentional because it is so mellow. But yeah, I love it. That's why it's number 2.
Nice. I know we've talked about this on podcasts before, but your loyalty to groups is always very impressive to me. Like through all the sound changes and various iterations that they may go through, like you stick strong, and not a lot of people do that. I don't do that. I'm not one to do that very often, so I'm always impressed when because this is a super different sounding. I mean, you compared it to Parachutes, but I don't think a lot of people would do that. I think Parachutes people would be like, that's how Coldplay used to sound, like that.
Right.
That's what it's like. But you're just so plugged in that you can hear the intricacies and the interwoven nature.
I think the only 2 Coldplay albums that didn't make my countdown were Milo Xyloto and A Head Full of Dreams, and those were kind of like the super poppy ones. So like for me, this was like a big time welcome change coming off of that super poppy one.
Sure.
Yeah.
Even though I know you liked Milo's, like I know you loved the song Paradise.
Yeah.
It was your walk-up song your senior year of baseball. And
yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
Plus I saw that was the tour I saw him on. So like when you see it live, it kind of holds a special place for you.
Sure.
Like I understand it's not the best, but like I got that connection to it. So
yeah. But there's really only there's only one artist in my catalog that I'll just buy whatever he puts out, whether I like it or not, just because he's my super favorite. It's Neil Morse. But like even like other bands that I adore, like Switchfoot's one of my favorite bands of all time. And if they put out an album that I'm not crazy about, I'm just like, whatever. Like I'll skip this one. Like the last one they did, Native Tongue. I'm like, whatever, it's fine. It's whatever. But then the most recent one they did, Interrobang, has got some really good stuff on it, and I'm like back in. But
yeah. See, like I'll buy all the CDs, but going back to talking about collecting records, I'm super picky about those because they are more expensive. So I would just buy like every Coldplay album, just like my absolute favorite ones. So it's all about the medium, I guess.
Well, it's tough too, because now like every time an artist comes out with an album, it's always like buy our super ultra pack with like
I know, dude.
19 CDs and 3 vinyls and Blu-ray, and you're like, oh my gosh, like it's 9 songs, gonna pay $160 for this.
I know, dude.
Crazy.
I know. You can even get like cassette tapes again now. Like they put them in the packages. So like get the limited edition pink cassette. I'm like, dude, cars don't even have this anymore. Like, oh man.
I know we may have talked about this. You can stop me if we've talked about this on the podcast before, but I heard last year that Queen was the #1 selling band in the UK because in 1 year they put out like a couple of those like super ultra sets that had like cassette, CD, vinyl, whatever, blah blah blah. And in the UK, the record sale rules are each of those counted as like an individual sale. So they sold
genius.
they sold these packs, and they sold so many of them that they were outselling all these like pop artists of the day and stuff. And it was like, because every time they sold one, they were selling like 7 or whatever it was.
Yeah, 7 for one.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah,
it's hilarious.
Cool. Well, big change for my number 2 compared to that. We've got a little bit of progressive metal.
Yes.
We've got the band Opeth and their 2014 release Pale Communion. I'm not like a monster Opeth fan. Their older stuff is like a little too dark and screamy for me. And beyond this album, it's good. Like, I've listened to it and it's really good. I've enjoyed listening to it, but it just doesn't like pull me in as much. This is like a super sweet spot album for me, where it was like a huge shift for them, and this one just like hits me right where I am. It's I mean, the dude, I don't know any of their names because they're all Eastern European names, and I apologize that's very insensitive, but whatever. Lepers is the same. I'm seeing Lepers tonight. I'm like, all their names are like Barge, Storskin, and stuff like that. I'm like, yeah, cool. Yeah, this album, like, there's some really heavy moments on it. Like I said, it is progressive metal, but like, some of the things that really shine through on this album, and actually all 3 of the songs that I put on the playlist are the ones where it's like, wow, like this is really unique and really different. The opening track, Eternal Rains Will Come, starts off with this like real like distorted organ, which is like so different for them. It's like, holy smokes, like listen, like that's very different for Opeth. And the organ's featured on a lot of the songs. The second track I put on the playlist, Goblin. it's a pretty short instrumental. It's like 4.5 minutes, and it's like really funky. You just like kind of jam to it, like dance around.
Nice.
And then the next song, River, it's got all these 3-part harmonies. It's like acoustic guitar, bass, and kind of shifts about halfway through the song into a little bit different of a sound, but like just real diverse stuff on this album that they did a lot of different things really well. It's very fun to listen to. I went through a period where like almost every time I went to the gym, I was putting this album on because like it was just like really high energy, and like there are like places where it's really intense, and there'll be like these kind of softer moments, so like build in these sort of like rest periods for me. So I'd be like on the bike or whatever, be like pumping to the jamming parts, and then like as we like chill out and like pull back a little bit. It was really hard for me to decide between 1 and 2 for this year. So this album, I actually like waffled back and forth so hard whether to put it as my number 1 or number 2. Ended up putting it in the 2 slot. So if you're looking for something different to listen to, and if you're looking for a drummer who's just amazing, really awesome drums, Pale Communion by Opeth, really cool stuff. Really cool stuff.
Nice. It kind of reminds me, back in our 2012 podcast, we talked about Second Law by Muse. It's kind of like prog, but like with a lot of different genres in it. It kind of sounds like it might be similar to that. And that reminds me of a funny story too. You're talking about listening to it at the gym. Like the last time I was in the gym was like in high school, like I'll be honest. And that was like because I had to be for school or whatever, for baseball and stuff. And everybody used to listen to like heavy metal, hip hop, and I was always like running on the treadmill listening to Muse. And they get like super classical sometimes. And I remember I was like running on a treadmill. I was listening to it on the out loud speaker one day. And my baseball coach was so disappointed in me. He's like, how do you get pumped up for this? He's like, dude, you need to listen to something better. I was like, screw you, man. I'm like, this is getting me jacked.
Which coach is that? I gotta know.
Radford. Do you remember him? Court.
What color was his hair? Was he dark hair?
Yeah. And he was shorter guy. And he was hilarious.
He used to after practice, he used to like run back to his apartment.
Oh, I don't know about that.
He was like a catcher, like a catching specialist, right?
Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And after practices, he used to run back to the dorms at ASU because he was a college student. Yep. He'd be like, "See you later, guys." Like,
yeah, and he's probably listening to like Kid Rock while he was running.
But he was super nice guy. Super nice
yeah,
guy.
he was funny. But yeah, I remember that very well. How like he was like, "How do you get pumped up to this?" I'm like, dude, I'm getting pumped up to freaking Coldplay over here. That's funny. All right, it's number one time. What everybody's been waiting for. I got Sun Structures by the band Temples. Psychedelia, it's back, baby. Temples, man. Such a great throwback to like the acid trips of the late 60s, like early 70s, kind of like experimental Beatles, like Pink Floyd kind of stuff. A lot of times old school sounding bands don't work today, just because like it doesn't translate as well in today's age of music. But like for Temples, they've taken that psychedelic rock and modernized it like masterfully. I think a lot of people like it that listen to it, as far as I know. But like it's one of the best debut albums for a band that I could think of like ever. It's so freaking good. Like it was too good. Kind of like you were talking about St. Paul and the Broken Bones, the follow-up albums felt like they were lacking a little bit. I still like them, but this one was just like absurd. But if you're not roped in on the opening song, Shelter Song, like we can't be friends, dude. It's crazy good. That one's kind of like your Beatles, like Monkeys kind of sounding, but like more psychedelic. It's really cool. My favorite song on the album is A Question Isn't Answered. Definitely would check that one out too. It's a little heavier on the riffs there. But like I said, if you're itching for like some cool classic rock sounding stuff that you won't hear on the radio, Temples, those are your guys. They even look like they're straight out of the 70s. I don't know if you've ever seen them. No, they've got like long curly black hair. They're like super ugly. they've got like the oversized like shades, fancy suits, like makeup and stuff, dude. Like they're so old school and they embrace it fully. And I saw them live also, and they're like perfect live. They blew me away. Like wow. It sounded like they were lip syncing. Like they were that good.
Jeez.
Definitely check them out on like YouTube sometime. They've done some cool radio shows and stuff. Nice. But yeah, dude, this album's just crazy good.
Yeah, I enjoyed this is a band that I had like legit forgotten about. And when I listened to the playlist this week, I was like, oh yeah, freaking Temples. I forgot. Yeah, it was fun. It's good. It's cool stuff. It's cool stuff.
Sweet.
It's interesting, not to like sidetrack us again, but I hate to use the word novelty band because novelty does not describe St. Paul and the Broken Bones or Temples. Like they're much more than just like a novelty act. But it is interesting that sometimes bands that like immediately make you think of another time period may not have like the staying power as another group.
Right.
But I mean, St. Paul and the Broken Bones, like even we tried to go see them in 2019 or whatever it was, you know, they sold out in like a heartbeat. So they're obviously still doing very well.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting how that can happen sometimes, where it's like you get struck with the like, oh yeah, like I haven't heard music that sounds like this in a really long time, and then when they do it again, you're kind of like, oh, I just heard you do this.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, like if they did a big drastic sound change, I don't know if you'd be disappointed by that. You'd be like,
I know, right?
Like they used to.
Yeah.
But
yeah, that's a good point. And I like Temples because you can hear their influences pretty strongly, but like they make it their own thing, which I respect. It's like, you know, the band Greta Van Fleet, is that what they're called? Like that's freaking Led Zeppelin.
Yeah.
Like, and they're extremely popular.
Yeah.
But for me, I'm like, the first time I heard them, I thought it was a Led Zeppelin song I'd never heard. Like like note for note. Like even their singer tries to sound like Robert Plant.
Mm-hmm.
Like that ticks me off.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's and every time somebody's like, you guys are influenced by Led Zeppelin, right? And they're like, no. Like, yeah, you are.
Yeah, what was so here's a band. So talking about a band that went in the other direction. Did you ever listen to the Struts?
Yeah, I like the Struts.
Yeah, so like their first album is like straight up AC/DC pretty much.
Yeah.
And then they went with a big sound change. Like they went way more modern with their second and third albums. And they did really, really well with those. So yeah,
they kind of had some Queen sounding stuff, I think.
Yeah, they had that yeah, but big, like when you press play on any one of their songs, you're like the 1970, it's like it takes you right back there. But well, on the first album, and then like they did a big kind of modern push. And I wonder if that was like, whenever I hear that, I'm always like, I wonder if that was the band of like, hey, we don't want to be stale, we don't just do the same thing, or if it was like a producer like, hey, you guys really got some traction, you could like get trapped in this sort of like novelty bubble. But I don't know.
Yeah, it's that's fun to talk about. We should incorporate that into segments sometime too.
Yeah, and I hope
we kind of just went through it, but
yeah. But if anybody's listening, like has made it this far into the podcast, first of all, thank you. And second of all, like we mean absolutely no disrespect. Like we love all this music. And we're just talking. We're just two guys, just spitballing.
Just two guys. We're having a good time.
That's copyrighted material. If none of this video is going to get taken off.
Sorry. Yeah, probably.
All right, sweet. Without further ado, my number one, much anticipated. Everyone's on the edge of their seats. They want to know. They got to know. My number one is Not a Trampoline by Rob Cantor. So actually we talked about Tally Hall earlier. I flashed up the old album title up there. Rob Cantor, this is his one solo album in the post Tally Hall years, and it's awesome. It's fantastic. It just shows off, like he's my favorite Tally Hall member, my favorite songwriter of the group, and it shows off his diversity so well. Like my wife and I listened to this album yesterday, and the last two tracks, track 11 is probably my favorite song on the album. It's called Perfect. It's like a super fun, pop song, and it's really funny. A lot of the lyrics are like really, really goofy and hilarious. And then the last song, track 12, is called Lonely But Not Alone. And it's like heartbreaking. Just like about two people that are in a relationship, and they're like committed to each other, but like neither of them is like feeling great about the relationship at that point. And like for him to do that kind of stuff back to back just shows off like what a good artist and songwriter he is. One of the songs on the playlist that I put is Old Bike. It's track 2 on the album. If I'm in the right mood, that song will make me cry. It's pretty goofy at times. Like there's some really funny lyrics in it, but it just like perfectly captures sort of like reliving childhood nostalgia and kind of trying to like keep a childlike spirit like with you throughout your life. And the music video is actually really, really powerful. It starts off with it's obviously meant to be like a very old woman like riding this old rickety bike, and as the video goes, she like is shedding layers of like clothing that make her look very old. So like her bonnet comes off, and this sweater comes off, and she's like getting younger as the video, like, oh, I'm getting choked up thinking about it right now. She's like getting younger as the video is going, and like the camera shifts and you shift to behind her and you see like where she's headed instead of just like what's going past her. So it's like very, very powerful, very cool.
Nice.
But I remember like a lot of times there's actually 2 albums on this list that I remember the exact first time that I heard them. One, I talked about Lark and Poe, hearing your radio show and hearing that song. And this one I remember, I just like, because I had not heard of Tally Hall. I hadn't heard anything that he or these other groups had done. And on Twitter, just one of the random guys that I follow that usually posted like really goofy jokes and just stuff was like, you got to hear this song. And it was the song "All I Need Is You" from this album, and the music video that he put together is all looping GIFs. And he chose he either made or chose GIFs that, like, when you put them together in a row, it looked like they were saying "All I Need Is You." And so that when the chorus rolled around, you'd see those GIFs in a row, and it would be like, oh, there, he like put it together like this. But I just listened to that song over and over and just watched that video over and over and over again, and bought the album. And then it was like, who is this guy? And heard of Tally Hall and got super plugged into them. Yeah, so like just super, super grateful that I happened to see that tweet on that random day back in 2014 or 15 or whatever it was.
That's cool.
Yeah, because now I like, he's just one of my favorites and listen to him all the time. And he's still cranking. He's still a very active musician, but he just does mostly children's music now. He got a contract with Disney, and he does Disney Junior stuff. And he's currently writing music for a Disney show called The Ghost and Molly McGee that has original music in every episode. And those songs are really, really funny. My wife and I watched the first like 3 or 4 episodes of that show, and the songs are great. So yeah, Rob Cantor, super awesome guy, super cool album, hilarious website too. The dude's so funny. I just think of all the time I spent on this album, because when you went to his website, when it might still be this way, I'm not sure if it is or not, it was just him in a suit in front of a plain white background. And if you watched it for long enough, he would just eat a food. Like he'd like put a whole piece of broccoli in his mouth or take a bite of fried chicken. And every time you refresh the web page, it would be a different food that he was eating. And like I just did that for so long, just over and over again, just refreshing, seeing all the different foods that I could see him taking bites out of. And like it was just so funny. Yeah, but cool, super cool guy, super cool album.
Nice. I see the album cover is piece of fried chicken.
Yep, it's not a trampoline. It's a
nice
piece of fried chicken, yeah.
Is the point that you brought up about like remembering where you hear stuff for the first time, that's so crazy to me. But I was just thinking that a lot of stuff that I discover is on the radio, and like a lot of people don't listen to radio anymore. Like at the job that I work at, I listen to the radio 8 hours a day. You have Shazam on your phone?
Yep.
The app. Dude, if I go through my Shazam history, like I did it recently, because you can see all the stuff that you Shazammed. And I like when I hear something on the radio I'm like hold my phone up to it and like, I'm like, what is this? I've discovered so many bands that way.
Yeah.
So it's like it's a cool connection between like old school radio and then like your cell phone like working together. But yeah, I find bands on the radio like all the time. So that's like St. Paul and the Broken Bones. I heard them on the radio. Temples, I heard them on the radio. Like there's a lot of stuff. So
nice.
Cool, man.
Yeah, I know. I can't remember, like St. Paul and the Broken Bones. My dad got me that CD for Christmas that year. And I really loved it. Hiromi, I talked about it the first time I heard a lot of these today, actually. Opeth, I can't remember. That was just like a I think I just heard, I don't know, it's total guess. Their 2019 album was named Prog Album of the Year by a couple magazines, and I think I started listening to some of their stuff when that happened, and found this album, and but
yeah, that's cool, man.
Music's a powerful thing. Yeah, sticks in your brain for sure.
Yeah, nice,
awesome.
Recap it, baby.
Recap it. Oh. All right, Brian's top 5 from 2014: Lullaby and The Ceaseless River.
Roar.
The Ceaseless Roar. I have that written down. I don't know why I said Ceaseless River, but I have a roar.
Oh man, no.
All right, let me do that. Let me do it again. Take 2.
Let's try it again. All right, take 2.
Lullaby. Oh, sorry. All right, I'm counting down Brian's top 5 albums from 2014. Number 5, Lullaby and The Ceaseless Roar by Robert Plant. Number 4, The Cautionary Tale of Mark Oliver Everett by Eels. Number 3, They Want My Soul by Spoon. Number 2, Ghost Stories by Coldplay. Number 1, Sun Structures by Temples. And then my top 5 recap, we got Kin by Larkin Poe, Alive by Hiromi, Half the City by St. Paul and the Broken Bones, Pale Communion by Opeth, and Not a Trampoline by Rob Cantor.
Excellent.
Great times, man. This is a fun one. I like when we go off on tangents and random stuff.
Yeah, it happens a lot. Let's see, man. We've only got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 more to go through 2020, but we gotta do 2021 now.
Yeah,
happened.
And I'm sure 2022 will be close on its heels at the rate that we record episodes.
Yeah, I know. Probably 2022 has been stacked already, dude.
Has it?
Yeah, I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but the new Low Moon. Yeah, did I tell you about that one?
But I like Low Moon.
Their new album's freaking awesome.
Is it?
I didn't like the first one so much. I was disappointed because I loved the singles they put out, and the album was like meh. And then the second album was like, it's pretty dynamite. That was the most recent one I could think of, but tons of stuff's coming out this year.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Hey.
Well, we always do real half a teasers for the upcoming year.
Yeah.
So 2015, Brian, you got any off the top of the nog teasers?
Yeah, I was thinking about it a little bit. I've got a band who had 2 albums. This is their second album. It was a Grammy Award-winning Best Rock album, and then poof, they just disappeared.
Wow.
They peaked and then they vanished.
Man.
So that's my teaser. See if people can figure that one out.
Oh, I'm blanking. I can't figure that one out off the top of my head.
Yeah.
Let's see. I mentioned on prior episodes that I feel like starting in like 2014-ish, we've been in a bit there's been a big sort of like soul and R&B kind of renaissance. And we talked about St. Paul and the Broken Bones today. And in the next year, we probably have what is probably the best modern R&B album, in my opinion, that there's been in the past 10 years or so. Wildly popular. If you're plugged into that music at all, you probably know what I'm talking about. But also, this is just more for you, Brian, because this is just so rare for me. So this year, I had that last minute edition in 2014. For 2015, I have the same albums are still in the top 5, but I have reorganized all of them. No album is in the same position that it was when I sent you the original list.
I think I did that for this year.
Did you?
I think so. I was moving stuff like crazy. I totally just gave my number 3 the boot. Like my number 3. Yeah, it's just like I liked it a lot, and I listened to it again, and I didn't like it as much.
Oh wow!
So it was. I feel like I shouldn't say it because it's kind of douchey, but I was just like, but it's Manipulator by Ty Segall, who does a lot of really cool stuff, and yeah, it just I don't know, it just didn't
wasn't catching
work
you.
for me.
Yeah. And who knows, music's so funny, like 3-4 years from now, maybe you go back and listen to that and be like, oh, I really do like that. It would be in my top 5 at this moment.
Yeah.
But
well, plus I found that Spoon album, and I just like swapped them out. But,
yeah, I mean, even for me, like last year when I was doing 2014, I listened to that Larkin Poe album, and like it was in consideration and ended up pushing it to honorable mentions, and then last minute I was like, no, like it should be on there. It should be in there.
We should just do a top 10, but that'd be too complicated, and it would be like a 3-hour podcast.
Very true. Also, there are some years where I struggle to get 5. Like there are certain years where it's like you're kind of scraping, and like there not that much stuff that I loved came out this year. But then there are other years where I could probably do 20. And
it's so weird how that happens.
But this is 2014. This is a solid year, and I think looking back, we talked about this at the beginning before I started recording, that This is probably my second most popular year as far as like music that people might know. Because like last year I felt so bad because there were 2 albums on there that probably like nobody's ever listened to. And this year,
dude, that's one of the points though, man. Make people want to listen to it.
Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah.
That's very true.
Yeah.
And we always give them a lot of diversity. You're always going to hear a lot of different stuff from us. So
diverse city. Toby will be back.
Well, all right, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll be back next time with 2015 and our top 5 albums from then, and we'll talk about encores and some of the nuances that go into creating a set list and that sort of thing.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
Yeah, man. Well, thanks for tuning in. Oh, sorry. What did you say?
Nothing.
Oh, nothing. Sorry, man. That's right. The end of a podcast is never ever good.
Yeah.
I've listened to enough of them now to know that they all just sort of end.
All right, let's cut it off right here.
All right, bye everyone.